Hello and welcome to Know Your Vibes Astrology. My name is Katie Turner and today I'm talking to you about Libra, Pluto, in the 10th house. So the way I like to do these videos is to break down the elements and then bring them back together for you, because we do know Pluto has its own meaning, the sign in the house has its own meaning, Pluto has its own meaning in the sign and in the house, but there's also meaning for when you combine all of them together. So we're going to break down the pieces and then bring them back together to understand overall what does it mean to have Pluto and Libra in the 10th house. So Pluto is a generational planet. So he was in Libra from 1971 to 1984. So if this is you or you're interested in someone who has this placement and you're listening for that reason, they're going to probably be born, not probably, they'll be born between that time period. And then most likely you're going to be a Capricorn rising, but you could be a Sagittarius or an Aquarius rising, maybe even a little bit something else too. But you're going to be Capricorn rising for if this is you. So Pluto, to start with, is our actor. The planet is the main archetype that is at force in action here. So Pluto is the planet that's the farthest from the sun, and so it gets the least amount of light historically. So it is our shadow side. It is the underworld. It is ruled by like Hades energy. That's the I don't know if it's Greek or Roman, but that's the other equivalent is Hades. So Pluto's the god of the underworld. And it's this energy where you go deep underneath the surface of things into the depths of what's going on to really understand and process some of these shadows that maybe we don't want to shine light on. So Pluto does rule a lot of heavy topics like abuse or trauma, manipulation, control, abandonment, loss, grief, death. But it's not about like staying stuck in those energies, but finding a way to process and move through them, to heal and to reclaim your power. Pluto oftentimes gets associated with the phoenix, so rising from the ashes. So Pluto really is this part of us where we have experienced the depths of depths, where we can access the deepest shadows of who we are. It's a place where we've probably gone through a hardship or loss or hurt or fear, just some of the nastier negative sides of human experience. And Pluto also kind of covers human psychology. So it is how you think and how you behave and what goes into influencing that, which is part of the element of control that Pluto does bring. And it rules intimacy as well too. So Pluto is bringing two people together in a way where you bond and you form a connection, and so that even if you were to separate, you're going to be a changed person. You're not going to be the same person you once were. Pluto definitely deals with chemical changes that you don't go back to, versus a physical change where you can undo. I don't know if you know that chemistry, little lesson, but like chemical changes exist when you can't return back to the original form. A physical change, you can return to the other form. So this is something that we can't return back to the original form. It is going to change us at a core level, change who we are. And Pluto, I do think, is a planet of love. When we look at the actual image of Pluto, there's a heart on Pluto. Like, there's a heart there. And so it's not just this heavy stuff, this underworld energy, just to be dark and death and doomsy. It's ultimately about empowering yourself, I think, to make the most of your time here. Pluto can really speak to a destiny wherever your Pluto is. So we'll talk more about where that's going to be for you. You might have a sense of destiny, purpose. But it does this, it gives you this energy so you can really find out what you're capable of, to find out what your power is, to find out what depths you have to connect to people in big ways. So for you guys, your Pluto is in Libra. So that's going to kind of color the themes that Pluto manifests as and through. So Libra is the energy of relationships. It's balance and harmony. It's fairness. It's the other side. It is beauty. It is feminine energy in a way. It's how what you attract and what you bring into yourself. It's very diplomatic and conversational. It's this energy that is a one-on-one balance between two people. How can we balance these scales? So when you put Pluto in Libra, what you're going to see is a generation that really maybe goes through a lot of experiences of that shadow world, that death and rebirth, going into the underworld, and then coming back again the other side, a changed person when it comes to relationships, when it comes to partnership or harmony, when it comes to your feminine energy. Maybe this is a generation where a lot of times astrologers will predict divorce will happen for Pluto and Libra people, because there is, through relationships, you have to kind of go through this death and rebirth experience. You might have multiple death and rebirths in one lifetime. There might be multiple relationships that you have to go through this chemical alchemical change through to figure out what you're worth and what you're capable of. There may be power struggles as well within relationships. There may be wounds in relationships. Maybe you have experienced abusive relationships or manipulation or control or fear-based relationships. Maybe you've gone through some kind of abandonment. Whatever it is, you're getting the chance to see the shadow sides that can come from relationships and harmony and balance and peace, or trying to maintain those energies, you know, at all costs. Like maybe there's some negative sides to those. Maybe there's things that need to be cleaned up or processed or healed through. And your generation is part of the generation that came here to do so, to start to bring reconciliation through these really deep wounds when it comes to fairness and harmony and justice. And how can you bring these conversations up with the Pluto energy in mind as well too, that there is this process of death and rebirth, there is this process of power struggles, there is this process of having to tear things down to the rubble. So it's not going to be a very pretty conversation, and I think that's something that can be kind of challenging for Libra energy. Libra really likes balance and can feel uncomfortable when balance is out of place. And so you're being called to do a lot of death and rebirth work within balance. That's going to disrupt your balance as well too. And that's something as a whole generation, whether it's in the 10th house or wherever your Pluto is, in Libra, it's something to kind of work through and work with. And at the same time too, this is a generation that really grows to know who they are, you get to know who you are through moving through relationships and experiencing intimacy with people. You're someone who really too, like, you don't have shallow relationships. You don't like shallow relationships. You're someone who can really instantly kind of connect to someone on a deep level and go straight to those depths. And that's something that's actually really valuable. So Pluto, even with all its heaviness, as kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel, besides the phoenix rising from the ashes, you know, reclaiming your power, healing your wounds, and becoming, you know, stronger in yourself, which are all great things. But like Pluto also too, it rules the jewels and gems we can find underneath the surface. It rules gold and crystals and resources that live underneath us and grow within the earth. It also, I mean, in that same regard, it is the cycles that happen naturally with worms decomposing dead material into fertilizer to help us grow life, right? So it's the energy that is allowing us to break things down so we can grow more, but also to in and of itself, there's gems there are gifts there are things of value. And Pluto definitely rules things of value, investments, joint finances, things like that. And so as you're going through the shadow work, eventually you'll run to a point where you run out of shadows to work through and you start finding your gifts. You start finding your personal gems, things about you that are so special that maybe you have hidden away, that you're now ready to bring forward. And those within the Pluto and Libra energy are going to relate to your ability to relate to people, to compromise, to negotiate, to collaborate, to form relationships and partnerships and marriages and things of those natures when you dig deep. And that's what Pluto really calls up here. It makes you dig deep. And if you don't dig deep, then you're going to have things kind of go haywire. So now adding the house context, the house really gives us the arena this show is going down in, because there's lots of different relationships we have, right? There's lots of different ways this can manifest. The 10th house specifically does relate to the career. It relates to your public reputation, authority, the father figures. What am I trying to say here? It is the part of yourself that you really work hard to build and then you show the world. It is also an area where if we don't put on our best self, if we don't really show up in a very disciplined way, things can go wrong, because our energy is trying to get our attention so we can pay attention to the lessons that are in front of us. Lessons, by the way, I think there's a misconception here with what lessons are. So a lot of times with the spiritual realm, we talk about life gives us lessons. We have to learn our lesson. And I think that can get kind of negative. And something that's really fun that we know of in cognitive psychology is that testing yourself, or, you know, giving yourself a lesson, actually reinforces what you're trying to learn. So we don't have to test ourselves to grade ourselves, to see how well we're doing, to evaluate performance, even though we can do that from tests. What we can really use tests for are do we really know the material? Can we really take this to a deep level? And so when you talk about, or when I talk about lessons here with the 10th house, use that frame of mind. So we're not talking about lessons of like, oh, you're in trouble and you need to learn your lesson, you need to take a test to see how you did, and if you fail, then your life's gonna be miserable. But rather, how is life setting you up to learn something? And you're meant to learn something with this energy in regards to unlocking your power in relationships within the career world. Maybe you're someone who really has to learn how to negotiate and to conduct deals or situations with people. Maybe you have old wounds with your father. Maybe you're here to break some patternings with your father and what he did. Even if you don't get to talk to him, even if he's not around anymore, maybe there's something with your lineage in that paternal line that you're here to break down, that you're here to tap into those Pluto energies of getting deeper, knowing it better, knowing it more, healing things, breaking cycles, breaking patterns, especially of abuse or pain, abandonment, and then like that phoenix rising from the ashes, reclaiming things and reclaiming yourself, but also to finding any gems and gifts that you maybe are able to get from that energy. There's also with this placement a really big destiny towards building justice and building fairness and harmony and beauty in a big way, because the 10th house is something that you spend 30 years building. And so you're someone who's going to build and build and build and build when it comes to this energy, and really work towards developing the best expression you can of that Pluto Libra manifestation. You may find, though, with Pluto's energy, sometimes you go through really big, massive career changes where you're in a career and it changes who you are and it revitalizes you. And then all of a sudden you have to change fields, and all that kind of comes tower moment, crumbling to the ground, and you have to rebuild. When it comes to that, I think tap into what really matters to you and ask yourself through those moments when you are losing something, what really matters when you're left behind. When you're left behind that, what is still important to you? If you can tap into that energy, I think that's one of those lessons of love that Pluto is trying to give to us, where they're trying to show us what really matters in life, what really is important, by taking away what's not important anymore. So maybe there's some things you learned from your career that is having to change that you really like and you want to kind of take home with you and integrate in a deeper way. Reflect on that, because that will be important for you. You may also find, though, that your relationship drama or wounds or intimacy, or if they have problems or whatever, can be kind of public with this placement. So for that reason as well, too, you may feel the societal pressure to conform in some type of way in your relationships. It will be important for you to figure out what really works for you, because that might still lead to an issue. So maybe you try to conform in your, you marry someone who's not ideally who you want to marry, but will please your family. But then they end up cheating on you, and you have to break up with them, and you have to divorce them, and that becomes its own embarrassment process in its own way. Versus if you would have followed who you loved, even if your family disapproved, maybe they would have been really, committed to you, and you would have shown people a different type of love you could have. And so with this, same thing with that career energy. If something falls down, ask yourself what really matters. And when it comes to your relationships, make it a point to do the work you need to do. Do the work to do the shadow work. Dive into your depths. Dive into your fears, your worries, your abandonment issues if you have them, your hurts, any of those things, and work through them. Like, do the shadow work. With the 10th house in Pluto, like, the shadow work is so important for you. And if you don't do it, it will be seen kind of publicly. That's not to say that, you're going to be publicly scorned constantly or whatever, but you have the power here. You have the control here to really refine your relationship with your shadows, your relationship with harmony and balance, your relationship with your career, your future, your destiny, what you want to build for yourself. And all of that can really kind of come down to this question of what really matters to you. What is fair? What feels right? What is harmonious? What is balanced? What nurtures those relationships that you really, really care about? If you can focus on those, I think those are really going to be your gems. And this is a placement where I really love these energies. I think this is a challenging placement, but it's strong, and it has a lot that it came here to do. So if this is you, and you're like, oh yeah, I definitely relate to the public, persona representation of things going wrong, people seeing, or my career maybe fell apart, or maybe I had a really public divorce, and those are all unfortunate things, you know, you have a bigger purpose, you have a bigger destiny, and this energy speaks to that destiny, it speaks to that purpose. Really make sure that you give this the attention you need, that you give this the energy that it deserves to make sure that you're okay. So dive into more of what these energies mean and what these planets mean to the sign in this house and how you can honor that. Ask yourself, how is it showing up in your life? Where are these energies in their multitude of intermingling? Because I haven't even scratched the surface, I'm sure, of what this placement could be. I've tried, but like with Pluto, there's always more depth, right? There's always more layers to it. So take those layers and explore those layers and see from within the self what comes up for you. You're definitely someone who's going to both change the world and be changed as well in the process. Relationships will play a very big part in that, your ability to bring balance and peace to everything. And I think this is just really an amazing energy, and I hope you get the chance to nourish it and love it as much as you can. If you would like my help in any of that and either integrating with the rest of your birth chart or dialoguing how to integrate it into your life, I am available for readings. So I will leave the information down below as well to how to reach out to me for that or book through my website. I also have an email list where I send out an email every single Monday saying hello, talking about the energies at hand, giving some updates and news about Know Your Vibes astrology. And as always, please like and subscribe if that suits your fancy. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!